First of all, I'd just like to say this is really cool.
Look, can we just talk about something else, please?
Since it's already quiet, I guess we might as well start the team meeting.
Greetings to you, wherever you're listening or watching, and welcome to episode 7 of the Little Big Fantasy League podcast. In last week's episode, the guys took a look around the league at the week 3 happenings, and they also did another round of Leo's Trivial Pursuit. And King Arthur, believe it or not, gathered them for another roundtable as they chatted about some MLB drama. This week, JD is going to bring another special segment of HAWKings Stat of the Week, where he'll present various stats from the past week, and we'll take a vote on our favorite. Then we'll take a look at week 3 matchups this week, and take a look at the standings, take a quick look, see who's in first, see who's kind of falling behind. And stick around as we discuss possible implications of trading in the fantasy league and a rapid fire topic of the top 5 teams in Major League Baseball.
All right, and before we jump into JD's stats, I think it's worth mentioning that 6 team owners from the Little Big Fantasy League got together for the day game between the Tigers and Orioles on Saturday at Comerica Park. It was JD, Joe, myself, along with Walt, Carter, and John. Had quite a good time. Got the Kerry Carpenter bobblehead giveaway. Everybody got there in time for that, which was pretty cool. Tigers, of course, picking up that victory by a final score of 4-3. And fellas, it was an exciting game. It felt like it was close the entire time, but nice to see the Tigers get the victory.
Always great to see the hometown heroes walk away with one, and always good to watch a close baseball game. You know, some home runs happen. That was always cool to see, and good to see the boys get a win.
Yeah, great day for baseball, and yeah, it was a great time with the guys.
Yeah, really the first league outing that we've had, and we got to celebrate with a nice torque bomb. Spencer Torkelson hitting yet another home run with an Oppo Taco this time around. But we do want to take a quick pause here and show the clip of Carter, Orioles fan, cheering after the Ramon Urias home run, one of the bright spots in the game for Baltimore.
Let's go!
So Carter pretty fired up in that clip. He didn't maybe have quite as much to cheer about at the end of the game, but like we said, you know, a close matchup between a team that's playing really well in the Tigers and a team that has really struggled in the Orioles.
Yeah, you know, it's still fun watching that Orioles lineup. I like a lot of their players. They got some good young talent. They did get swept by the Tigers, and as a Tigers fan, that's always good to see. But definitely couldn't help but root for a couple Orioles players when they would step up to the plate. Just an all around fun environment to be around. Great game, 2 great teams squaring off.
Yeah, and for those wondering, the voice is gone because I was cheering so loud for the Tigers on Saturday. Alrighty, let's get into our segment here, our special feature segment. It's bigger, it's better. Ladies and gentlemen, it's too much for the little big leaguers. Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's finally ready. Give it up for the second segment of HAWKings Stat of the Week, sponsored by HawkCoin.
Thank you, Leo, and welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Stephen Hawking's Stat of the Week. We've got a good one for you today. Reflecting back on the past week or so, several numbers stood out to me surrounding 3 specific players. So the first one we're going to dive into is a big one. It has to do with good old Eugenio Suarez of the Arizona Diamondbacks, who had a big 4-homer game, which is the 19th in baseball history. So yeah, that's more rare than a perfect game. Last time this happened was JD Martinez back in 2017, and so just even coming into the game, Gino was batting 136 in the past 75 plate appearances, which is pretty crazy. And there's only 2 other times in MLB history that a player has hit 4 home runs in a game and the teams wind up losing. The last time that happened was Bob Horner in 1986. So yeah, we got some history on our hands here, folks. And other times that this has happened, teams have basically gone 16-3 record-wise when this has happened in a game. And so just also hats off to just Eugenio Suarez in his career so far. The past 10 years, he's 6th overall in home runs, and he's coming up on 300 total as a career. He's currently at 286, and those 4 home runs made him the first player this season to hit 10 home runs. So big day for Gino, big day for John of the Detroit Mariners as well. He scored 58.7 fantasy points. So I'm sure you guys will get into that later. For anyone listening, that's like a good number for like a week for some players. So pretty crazy stuff there. Second, we're going to take a look at our main man, Hunter Brown of the Houston Astros. And as he threw for 28 consecutive scoreless innings over the past several starts, which is 5th in franchise history of the Astros. The other pitchers ahead of him that are on the list are J.R. Richard, Don Wilson, and Darryl Kyle. And quick trivia, which Astros player holds the franchise record for longest scoreless inning streak?
I'll go with Justin Verlander.
I'll go with Ryan.
The answer is Roy Oswalt with 32.1 consecutive scoreless innings. So shout out to Roy.
It's a great name.
So that's a big day big few days there for Hunter Brown. So yeah, that's a big one. And then the last one, this third player, has just one of the most fascinating baseball savant pages. So if you ever get a chance, definitely check out Jacob Wilson on the no longer Oakland A's. Jacob Wilson had a 0% walk rate up until this past week, which he drew his first walk, which is significant because he's batting .324, which is the 5th in the AL. He has 34 hits, which is 8th in the AL, and he has like a 10.2% whiff rate, a 4.7% K percentage. He's first in like at bats per strikeouts, with like 21 per strikeout, which is insane. And he has a 333 OBP on top of like just hitting and not walking. So I believe his walk rate now is at like 1.8, but it's just some ridiculous numbers of kind of a unicorn player that we don't really see very often these days. So those are our big 3 this week, gentlemen. Any thoughts?
I mean, I'll start here because we had some of the little big leaguers together this past weekend, and on Friday night, John was telling us that he was thinking about dropping Eugenio Suarez. Of course, the subject also came up, and we've talked about this in prior episodes, that he was deciding between Jake Berger, who now has 3 home runs. If you're looking at the Jake Berger home run tracker, we'll definitely show that again. But he was deciding between Berger and Suarez on who to keep on his fantasy team at the beginning of the season. And he ended up going with Suarez, and he's been struggling of late. He's really, he's had a couple monster games, a couple grand slams this year. And then we're watching the game on Saturday. We saw that he was on the 3 home run watch, so we threw the game on, and we got to watch that live with several members of the Little Big Fantasy League, which was pretty cool. So I think John's going to have to hang on to him at least for a little bit longer here. I mean, yeah, the first, like you said, to reach 10 home runs this season across the big leagues, to me, that has to be this week's HAWKings stat of the week.
Yeah, it pains me to not give it to my player, Jacob Wilson, and to John's player, and Suarez. If you do something that happens less frequently than a perfect game, which is already super infrequent, you're doing something right. And touching upon what you said, Leo, about it, John was kind of trying to figure out who to keep prior to the start of the season and who to drop. I actually believe I said to keep Suarez. So I'd like to take partial credit in John's success, merely because I think I gave him the advice. And will that go against me when I play him? Quite possibly. But I'm glad I was not matched up against John this week, even though I still did take the loss. It was good that I didn't let John at least beat me this week. So.
Interesting points. I had not considered that about. But yeah. I mean, with Joe's point there. So good luck with that, Joe. Facing John next week. I'm sure you and Leo will speak more about that later in the pod. But yeah, it seems like fate was in John's favor this week. So.
And it was.
Yeah, those are some great stats. I love the Royals Walt name shout. Definitely one of the more underrated pitchers, I think, of his time, especially pitching in the midst of a steroid era. So an Astros legend, and yeah, just a guy that, maybe didn't throw the hardest, but more of a finesse type of guy. I know that he's popped up in MLB The Show as a guy to use within the last few years as well. So love to hear those old names from the early to mid 2000s there.
Yeah, big time. Well, if anybody else has any thoughts, go for it. But that's all I got for Hawking Stat of the Week this week. So until next time.
Good stuff. I think Joe was a little bit frozen there. We'll make sure that
Yeah,
he
and
checks that router.
yeah, I gotta get the router back on, boys. But definitely just a quick shout out, Hunter Brown. I think he's going extremely under the radar this year for what he's doing for Houston. So really great to see out of a good arm, and excited to see what he'll do for the rest of the year.
Wayne State product. I'm a proud owner. He's on my team right now. So I know, Joe, you had him, dropped him last year. I think you maybe had him, dropped him a couple times. I had to snag him, and I almost ended up dealing him back to you for Freddie Peralta. I'm pretty glad that I didn't make that trade in hindsight.
Oh, when Freddie has a nice 13 strikeout night tonight, he'll be back in, and I'm not worried.
Yeah, we'll see about that. But let's give it up for another HAWKings Stat of the Week segment. Well done, JD. And with that, I know JD's got to hop off for the rest of the episode. We'll look to check in with him next week in episode 8, which will be sponsored by Justin Upton, who wore number 8 for the Detroit Tigers. And let's go ahead and take our first commercial break.
Fans, make your plans now to be at Tiger Stadium for Sunglasses Day, Wednesday, July 25th. Every adult 15 and over attending the Tigers' 135 game with the Baltimore Orioles receives a pair of Tiger neon sunglasses, compliments of pass. To get your tickets in advance, stop by the Tiger Stadium box office, any Ticketmaster outlet, or call 645-6666. Tigers Baseball. Be a part of the fun.
Welcome back, Little Big Leaguers, to episode 7 of the Little Big Fantasy League podcast. I can tell you that I will definitely be heading out to the Tigers game for that sunglasses giveaway coming up next month. So it's gonna be pretty cool. Those shades look sick. Not sure if you saw those, Joe.
I did. I have not seen the sunglasses.
Okay.
Let's take it. Maybe I'll be. When is it the game?
I think I'm gonna say it's July 28th. I have to go back and watch the ad, but they look pretty cool.
I might be joining you. Who knows?
Alrighty. So let's get into our next topic here. We're going to go through our week 4 fantasy matchups. Another good week for the Little Big Fantasy League, of course, with our first group outing, getting 6 owners to come out to the Tigers game. There was a lot of trade talks this past week, but another competitive week for many teams. Finishing in first place, it's yours truly, the Lou Collins Heartthrobbers, putting up an even 900 points for this week. John's team, the Detroit Mariners, finishing in second with just over 838. And our third place finisher was Kyle, the Schwellenbach enthusiast, with 775 points. A pretty solid week to actually beat Walt. And so Walt moving to 3-1, picking up that first loss. And then other teams picking up wins. JD staying undefeated, the Stephen HAWKings beating Tom, and also Riztopia with a nice win against Otani's Interpreters. Joe, obviously we went head to head this past week. Kind of a tough one for you there.
Yeah, it didn't go my way, and not all of them will. It is what it is. I could tell pretty early on in the week that it was going to be a tough week, and I probably wasn't going to come out with the victory. Um, I got down extremely early in the week with some of your stellar performances, specifically Walker Bueller there in the beginning of the week. He having that phenomenal start really kind of put me down in the dumps. And then, when we got together for the game on Saturday, one of the first things I said to you was congratulations on the win, because I knew it was most likely over with the over 100-point lead you had on me. So it's tough to get that loss, tough to fall to 2-2 on the year. You always like to be above 500, so sitting at 500 is not the best. But shout out Kyle. Kyle this week is my league MVP. He took down Walt, gave him that first loss, like you mentioned. And I had talked with Kyle earlier in the week, and he had a lead, and he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep it. Walt's got a good team, but I got a good solid lead right now. And I said, I think you're going to walk away with this one. So always good to see him get that win and crawl back to 500. Walt now taking down a peg and leaving JD the last only undefeated team. So whoever's gonna take him down, they better do it quick before he starts building that ego. Um,
Yeah.
a couple other notables, John having 838, like you mentioned, always good to see from him. He actually briefly, I don't know if anybody else in the league was watching, briefly changed his team name from the Detroit Mariners. He threw a little bit of shade at me and changed his team name to, I believe it was something to the effect of apparently very beatable. Um,
Yes, those are
and
the exact words.
and that was a direct quote from me, I believe, in possibly week 2's episode, or episode 2, I should say, where I said that John has a beatable team, and he outscored me this week by over 100 points. So he threw a shot at me, and I just got to take it. I got to let it ricochet off me and just move forward. Look forward to playing him next week.
Well, apparently he's been very beatable a couple times because he is a 500 team at this point, but he does have very solid pitching. So, I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. We talked last week, JD and I, deciding on, at that point, which team under 500 were we most scared to face. And we both agreed that John was that team. And so, yeah, I think he definitely made a statement this past week. I mean, he is the league commissioner, so he does have a little bit of power in this league. But I think that's a big statement win for him. I mean, I know that Justice's team hasn't done a whole lot, but putting up that margin of victory and that amount of points is that is really solid. But yeah, I think I'd agree with you. That's a huge win for Kyle. I would call him the MVP for this week as well. I know I got to talk with Walt quite a bit this past weekend. He stayed over at my place for a few nights, and it really came down to that last day on Sunday, and he wasn't quite sure if he was going to be able to make the comeback. He was kind of leaning towards probably not, and it ended up only being just under a 4-point matchup there. So definitely a really close matchup between bye week and Schwellenbach enthusiast, but solid matchups in week 4. Let's roll right into the standings. JD, as we mentioned, the only undefeated team, a perfect 4-0 at the top of the league. The 3-1 teams in order of points scored: the Lucons Heartthrobbers, Bye Week, and Ristopia. Now, a mention of the 500 teams: the Detroit Mariners with a solid week, Kerry Bonds taking the loss, and also Kyle picking up that win. The Barrel Age Rye Guys and Tom had a tough week. Still nice that he has that one win, and then 2 teams are left without a win, those being Otani's Interpreters and the Justice League. Any just quick thoughts on the overall standings here, Joe?
Yeah, so definitely, like I was mentioning, being 500, you're in an okay place. You're not in a bad place, but you're not in the best place you can be in. So I myself, being in that, definitely want to turn it around this week against Tom and not let him get that second win. I got a tough matchup. I know going into the day I was already down by, I believe, about 50 points. So definitely definitely tough to crawl back, but I think I can do it. As for Cade there and Justice at the bottom, I think they need to turn their teams around. I think they need to find something that works for them, possibly make a move, troll the waiver wire and see what's going on. As well as one of the other 500 teams, John, the commissioner of the league, if he's willing to just take quotes from me and change his team name, I'm more than happy to feed that. And John, your next team name should be "My Head's Getting Too Big." I think he's letting it go to his head, and I'm ready for week 6, no doubt.
Yeah, I know you've got him in a couple of weeks here. The league is totally on watch, and we've talked about the rivalry between both of you, not just in this fantasy league, but also in your personal lives as well. We tried to keep you as far apart as we could when we were at the Tigers game on Saturday, but you guys just happened to be sitting right next to each other. But one thing that I did notice is that you left a seat between him and yourself. So, that blank seat had that made quite the statement, I would say.
Yeah, I wanted to put him on notice. I did share my food with him, so I wanted to to bring us together, but it's more of a lulling him into a false sense of security. So I will be taking him down, and there will be no questions about it. And yeah, I'm ready for it.
You heard it here first. So I know you mentioned those bottom couple of teams there with Cade and Justice. I think this segues really nicely into our next topic: fantasy baseball trades in a dynasty league. And the overarching question is now the time to make a move? As we mentioned, there was quite a few trade talks this past weekend with several of the league members getting together. And so one thing that teams have been considering are, what positions do other teams need? And we're going to show a quick clip here from my living room of JD asking a question about another team's outfield. Let's take a quick look.
Ask 2 traits now with fur hair.
What's his outfield?
Let me see here.
All right, so now that you've seen that clip there, Joe, JD asking about another team's outfield, this is not an uncommon question to ask when you're looking to throw out potential trades to other team owners. Is this something that you have personally considered when making trades to other teams?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at guys on my team where I have depth, and I'm trying to look out into the league at teams that don't have depth at certain positions. Um, I now have some depth in my outfields after I just recently called up Chandler Simpson of the Rays. So now I have both of my bench bats being outfield spots after I dropped Willie Adames as well as dropping Nathaniel Lowe. So now I'm trying to look around the league and gauge who can give me the best return for one of my outfielders. The tough part about outfielders is there's a lot of good ones around the league. American League, National League. I mean, every team has at least one good outfielder. Some teams, obviously, multiple good outfielders. I mean, you look at just, for example, a team like the Tigers. McKinstry is tearing the cover off the ball and he's playing right field. Riley Green looks like he may be figuring it out as he had 2 home runs yesterday against the Houston Astros. He's in the outfield. Kerry Carpenter, another outfielder for the Tigers, has, I believe, 6 homers on the year, 5 or 6 homers on the year. So just them alone, that's 3 good outfielders to choose from. Every team has a lot of good outfielders, so it's going to be tough to try and swing a trade, but I'm always looking for teams willing to make a trade. And if a good offer comes along, then I'm more than happy to listen. So whoever's listening to this podcast, hopefully the whole league, please send your trade offers. I will do my best to respond with my thoughts on it, and we can have a nice dialogue about it.
But we definitely know what your answer is when it comes to is now the time to make a move, and it's yes. Now, for some teams, like myself, I feel like I'm kind of in a position where I don't know if I am quite ready to make a move. I mean, there's definitely been trades that I've, considered, but it just didn't seem like the timing was quite there for me. It just kind of felt like I had to hold, but I'm in another interesting position as well, as you kind of mentioned, in being a little bit overstocked on outfielders. I've got Aaron Judge, Jackson Churio, and Steven Kwan in my 3 main outfield spots, but I also have Riley Green, who I usually slot in on my util, and I recently picked up Pete Crow Armstrong, who has been fantastic for the Chicago Cubs. But, I sometimes do feel like I am in a position where it'd be nice to maybe have a couple more guys on my bench that I could utilize maybe in a first base or a third base role. So I'm also a little bit overstocked on shortstops. My main shortstop is Bobby Witt Jr., and I also have Bryson Stott, who can also play second, and Bo Bichette sitting on the bench. And like tonight, I'm looking at my team right now, and Bo Bichette has put up over 13 points, and it's only the bottom of the 4th inning, and here I have him sitting on the bench in what will surely be a close matchup against John. So, there is a lot to consider with trading. Are you going to go for it right now? Are you going to build for the future? And I think another thing to consider is player age. Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the episode. There was a potential trade lined up between our 2 teams, me and Joe here. And at one point we had a 2-for-2 agreement that we both were willing to really press the full send button on. I was going to deal Hunter Brown and Bryson Stott. In return, from Joe's team, receive Freddie Peralta and Jeremy Pena. Jeremy Pena has since been dropped, and Bryson Stott has since moved into the top 60 in our fantasy points, believe it or not. So he's played really well. And Hunter Brown is an early AL Cy Young candidate. And the one thing that I considered that actually Carter reminded me of is player age. Hunter Brown is a couple years younger than Peralta, and so that was one of the reasons that I ultimately decided not to pull the trigger on that deal.
Yeah, that one, looking back on it now, that one definitely hurts. I mean, you'd love to have a guy like Hunter Brown. I just pulled him up actually, just looking at where he was ranked and what his outings have looked like. I mean, I know he's been great, but I just want to see points wise, and just a phenomenal start to the year. I believe he's ranked maybe somewhere around 80, if I'm correct, in all players, which is incredible for a pitcher. I mean, I have some decent pitchers on my team, some good pitchers on my team, and they are not ranked within the top 100. So to have someone like that be ranked so high, who only goes out there and pitches every 5 days, is truly phenomenal. that one, I think that one's going to haunt me as the deal that got away. Because I did want Hunter Brown. I knew Freddie Peralta, looking at his years, has proven that he has obviously good success in the major league level, good strikeout numbers. And that's where I was hoping I could persuade you to give me Hunter Brown for him, because Hunter Brown hasn't really showed that extended success in the major leagues. I mean, last year at the start of the year, like you mentioned, I had him on my team at the start of the year, and I ended up dropping him after his first few starts. Then he had one good start. I picked him back up. Then he had a couple mediocre starts, dropped him back down into the waivers, and I couldn't pick him up. And he had a phenomenal second half of the year, and he's really continued that into the first start, I should say, of this year. So really, really great to see from him. And if anybody else in the league were to have him, I'd be upset, but at least it's you and not John. So
Fair
that's
enough. The beef with John continues, and so we're going to take another look here on an event that transpired this past weekend as trade talks were flying around left and right. I mean, we were walking over to get a pizza in Clawson, and guys were throwing out trade ideas. It was like, what is going on here? So apparently this league thinks that it is time to make a move, and there has been definitely increased interest in trade talks overall so far this season. Let's show a clip of Carter taking some deep thought on a potential trade with Tom, the barrel-aged rye guys.
I am in deep thought about this. Trees is what you are. Carter the Lorax. Orange. The arborist. The orange Lorax.
Now, Joe, after seeing that clip there of Carter, you can tell that he's really in some deep thought, and he's trying to decide, does he want to make a deal? I mean, you can't just throw out a trade really without thinking about it. It really shows that there does have to be a lot of thought and consideration and all of the different factors that go into something like this.
Yeah, I mean, with it being a dynasty league, it is so important to look at every single aspect of the trade. Like we had mentioned, players' age. If your team, you see it more as a win now, or if you are seeing it as a let's try and build for the future. Maybe a team like Kate or Justice, being 0-4, maybe that's where their head is at. Is okay. You know what? I'm gonna not focus on winning this year. I'm already, I've already winless in 4 games. I'm not gonna win this year. I know I'm not, no matter what my team does. So maybe he's ultimately thinking that I'm gonna focus on maybe getting some young guys, that haven't showed too much yet, and risking it and hoping to go deeper in future years. But trading is something you have to think so precise about. I mean, even you and me with that 2-for-2 trade, we went back and forth on that for so long. And at the beginning of the year, I also went back and forth with a trade with Carter that, looking back on it, it could have been good for both of us, as he was offering me Shane Baz and Spencer Steer for Freddie Peralta, and I did not take the deal, being extremely high on Freddie Peralta. And Freddie has by no means had a bad year, but definitely not living up to it. He's actually pitching tonight and has already allowed 2 runs to the Chicago White Sox, two solo shots. So that's it's pretty tough. But I'm looking for him to turn it around. So hopefully keeping Freddie Peralta will not bite me in the butt, but I have a bad feeling that it may.
Fair enough. A ton to consider, and Carter was considering and weighing a lot of different options. Let's now show a clip of his preferred trade option with Tom.
Yeah, I don't want to piss him off though, I guess.
You could send a bad trade to somebody. It's not a bad trade.
Wait, you're gonna do Imanaga?
What could you throw in then?
All right, so Joe, after seeing that offer, Michael Harris II for Shota Imanaga, it seems maybe just a slightly
Yeah,
delusional. It just seems kind of like taking a big shot in the dark.
right. I mean, if you're Carter here, you're swinging for the fences, and quite honestly, I think deep down you know you're coming up short every time, and maybe hitting a squibbler in the infield. Michael Harris is a good player. He's young. He's got age on his side, but Shota, I should say, is just a better player. It's not really close. Um,
I mean, but there is the age consideration too. Like
True.
Michael Harris is substantially younger than Shota Imanaga, and Carter didn't ultimately end up offering this trade. But we're going to show right now the ultimate offer that Carter made to Tom, trying to grab another starting pitcher from the barrel-aged rye guys.
3, 2.
Dude, freaking Joe, Jacob Wilson got another home run.
All right, Joe. So after seeing that Riztopia is hungry for starting pitching here, again, offering Michael Harris II, this time for Dylan Cease. But the way that Dylan Cease's season has gone, it seems a little bit more reasonable. And you can really see, I think, that with an offer like this, Carter truly is in a win now mode. I mean, he's 3-1 on the season. He's on the rise. He's, scoring a decent amount of points per week. And it seems like he's pretty antsy to try to make a move to grab a starting pitcher.
Yeah, Carter is a great analogy. Is one of those teams at the deadline that is playing good baseball. They're confident in the team that they have, but they feel like they're just missing that one piece to really put them over the edge. And I think that's where Carter's at right now. Carter has a solid team all around. Sure, there's some spots that are a little weaker than others, but he feels like if I get that last starting pitcher role, I'll be able to make a huge push for this, and I believe it. So I respect what he's doing, going out there and trying to find a deal that'll work. Um, and I'd love to see a deal get done between Carter and some team.
Yeah, for sure. And the offer was ultimately declined by Tom, which wasn't too surprising. I still think, like, was it a fair offer? I think to a certain extent, it really depends on what you're going for, and more of a veteran starter in C's, who is actually still, I think, pretty young. I think he's 29. He might be in the prime of his career versus somebody like Harris, who might have a little bit more upside. He's showed a pretty good track record so far for Atlanta, but struggling a little bit to start the season ultimately for a team that has struggled as well. But just, so much to consider within a dynasty league, like the Little Big Fantasy League, obviously. And I think, it's just good to see that teams are willing to make moves to try to make their teams better.
Exactly. That's what you love to see out of a league. A league that's active is going to be the best league possible. So I'm definitely glad to see already some trades happening this year, and I'm excited to see hopefully more happen throughout the year.
Without a doubt. All right, with that, we're going to take a short break here. We will be right back. Stay tuned as we get into our final segment and talk about the top 5 MLB teams by winning percentage in a rapid style format.
This is Mike Trout. And this is an actual trout. From trout to trout, everyone loves Topps Bunt. Download it now for free.
And welcome back to episode 7 of the Little Big Fantasy League podcast. Our next segment, we are going to be talking about the best MLB teams by winning percentage as of yesterday, 428. So for starters, we're going to start off with the best team, the New York Mets. They are sitting at a 20-9 record. Truly impressive to see out of the Mets. Definitely got to love the production that they're getting from Pete Alonso. Definitely probably not the money that he wanted to get in the offseason. But it's good to show that he is worth that money. Also going to give a shout out to Brandon Nimmo, as he had a phenomenal night last night, I believe. Was it last night or the night before?
Yeah, it was last night.
Getting 9 RBIs, tying the Mets franchise record with Carlos Delgado. He had a chance there, was going to come up with guys on base, and then Mark Vientos hit a 3-run homer right before him, taking all the ducks off the pond. But great to see the Mets get off to this good start, especially without Juan Soto producing as much as they would like.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the Mets are 8-2 in their last 10. They've got the best run differential in baseball right now at plus 50. Games are ongoing right now on 429. Again, this is all of 428, but they're 12-1 at home. Alonso leading the way, leading the NL in OPS and OPS plus. He's got 27 ribbies and 18 extra base hits. Lindor off to a pretty solid start, as you mentioned. Joe Soto, maybe not getting off to as good of a start as he would like, but he is getting on base, which you can definitely appreciate. And at 2.62 team ERA, Cody Sangha has been sensational. Canning, McGill, Holmes, and Peterson are definitely a rotation to be reckoned with. So I think the Mets are definitely legit this year, and hopefully they can keep it up in the NL East, which is definitely one of the tougher divisions in baseball.
Correct. Definitely agree. Definitely didn't see him here before the start of the year, but good for them. Now, in second place, we have 2 teams tied for the next best record. So we'll start off with the San Francisco Giants, starting at a record of 19-10. Definitely would not have put that on my bingo card for this year. The Giants are a team that, looking at their lineup and their roster, think they had a lot of holes, and definitely did not think they were going to be where they're at atop the NL West. So really good to see out of them. They got some big names doing it for them. Now having a good veteran presence with Justin Verlander on the team, as well as Matt Chapman at third base, I believe his second year with them. Definitely good to see as well. I like the Giants, but I don't see them being able to maintain this throughout the whole season. I think it's a hot start, but I think eventually there will be a fall off coming.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Jung-Ho Lee has been sensational at 930 OPS. He actually leads the NL with 11 doubles. As you mentioned, Matt Chapman off to a pretty nice start. He leads the NL with 26 walks. Mike Yastrzemski putting together a pretty nice season thus far, and Wilmer Flores leading the team offensively. He actually leads the National League with 28 runs batted in. Now, losing Blake Snell is pretty big a loss for them, of course, with him moving over to the Dodgers. But the rotation of Logan Webb and Robbie Ray, those 2 guys have looked good so far. The rest of the pitchers definitely need to step up. And a quick trivia question for you here. Can you name the Giants manager at the moment?
You know what? My first instinct was Gabe Kapler, and I don't believe he's been a manager there for maybe more than 1 year. So I cannot name their manager now.
So it is Bob Melvin. This is his second year managing the Giants. I had no idea that he was managing the Giants. I just feel like we don't see them quite too much, being Tigers fans. We don't get to see the Giants a whole lot. Those games are usually played later in the night as well. So Bob Melvin is the Giants manager, which I thought was a pretty interesting tidbit. He's got a pretty good track record.
Yeah, definitely interesting to see. I could have gone through probably 100 other names before I landed on Bob Melvin. But good to see him having success with this team in his second year. And the next team we're going to be talking about, the team that is tied for second place, is also in the same division, the NL West, the Los Angeles Dodgers. That is a completely shock to me. I thought they'd be blowing all teams in that division out of the water with their star-studded lineup that they do have. Guys like Freeman and Betts, Snell, who's injured currently, and I believe is shut down for an extended period of time, if not the whole season. So that's tough to see. But they still have some other guys stepping up for them that maybe they wouldn't have expected. Tommy Edman has looked good to start off the year. Teoscar is putting together another good campaign. And another guy, my thought, who could be the potential comeback player of the year, Dustin May. He is going out there and throwing the ball pretty well. So definitely good to see out of him. But the Dodgers sitting at 19-10 as well. Would have thought it would have been a little bit better, but still a great record.
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. I mean, you mentioned Edman. He's got 8 home runs. Teoscar Hernandez has 9. The pitching really is not what's carrying them right now. There are major injury issues in that rotation, but Yoshinobu Yamamoto has been a great bright spot for them, leading the National League with a minuscule 1.06 ERA. I think that lineup is definitely going to have to carry them through. Their team, actually, from a pitching perspective, has a negative 0.2 WAR, according to Baseball Reference. So enough said about the Dodgers. Honestly, I kind of despise them right now. Let's talk about our hometown team, the Detroit Tigers.
By far my favorite team to talk about, and I could go on for hours and hours about them, but I'll keep it brief and I'll keep it short. The resurgence that Spencer Torkelson so far has had to his career is something that needs to get talked about more. The league needs to be put on notice that Spencer Torkelson is back. He has 8 home runs on the year. His average is dipping a little bit, but nobody expected him to maintain that 300 average that he was having in his first couple days, or first couple series, I should say. But truly a player that is making a difference in this lineup. He's putting together much better at-bats. He is limiting the strikeouts. He's increasing his walks. It is truly great to see. As well as other guys like Kerry Carpenter and hopefully now Riley Green coming back into his form and hopefully turning around his slow start to the year. The Tigers pitching has been phenomenal as well, with guys like Skubal, Flaherty, and Olsen leading that, as well as a young guy like Job, who I believe in his starts is 4-0, which is great to see out of him.
Yeah, without a doubt, the Tigers are 13-3 at home. They have a plus 39 run differential. And speaking of the number 39, Zach McKinstry, number 39 for the Detroit Tigers, is in the top 10, the top 20 in WAR in the MLB. As you mentioned, Torkelson having a really nice comeback season. Javi Baez is hitting the ball well. He's got more than a plus WAR. I mean, he's hitting doubles. He's not hitting the long ball right now, but he's hitting doubles. He's playing some solid defense for us in center field. You mentioned Kerry Carpenter. He just hit his 7th home run tonight against Houston. And we can't discount Dylan Dingler filling in really nicely for Jake Rogers. And then one more shout out would be to Casey Mize, who leads the team with 4 wins. And then you got to mention the bullpen too. It's been a fantastic bullpen. The pitching has been great, a little bit less chaotic for the better this year. A 2.86 team ERA.
Yeah, definitely good to see, and I definitely don't want to brush over Dingler. What he has done with this pitching staff and what he has done with the bat is something truly phenomenal for a guy that is in his 2nd year in the big leagues, although last year he obviously did not have that full year. But it was great to be able to see him play in AAA last year. I got the experience to go down to Toledo and watch him play, and it's great to see him having success now at the major league level. And our last team, the last top 5 team, is the San Diego Padres, who are sitting at 17-11. Really interesting to see them having a great start to the season. So not only are they the 3rd team in the National League West in the top 5, which is an extremely loaded division looking at it, obviously excluding Colorado, who is on pace to be the worst team in baseball. But the San Diego Padres have a great team. I like a lot of their guys. They have some really good young players. My biggest thing with them is if they want to have success this year, Manny Machado, I think, is one of their guys that can be an X factor for them this year. He's a veteran in the league, and if he can put bat on ball with power and he can play good defense, I don't think they have anything to worry about, and I think they should be able to remain really competitive in that division, which is already extremely competitive.
Yeah, they've been a really solid team to start the year. I think the Tigers kind of slowed their momentum a little bit in that series, which, Joe, both of us got to attend. I attended that Monday game, and you attended the Tuesday game. Of course, we showed some clips of Joe at the game last week in episode 6. If you missed that, be sure to check out episode 6. But yeah, Padres are they're on the downslope right now. Actually, they're 3-7 in their last 10. They're on a 4-game skid at the moment, but Fernando Tatis Jr. has been fantastic. He's actually made some adjustments in his batting stance. He's got 8 home runs and a 346 batting average. Also has that dynamic speed with 7 stolen bases, and the Padres are doing this without Jackson Merrill at the moment, absent from the lineup due to injury, which is, a guy that you want to get back soon. But it's been the pitching that's really carried them through and led them to this early season success, a 2.82 team ERA with Michael King and Nick Pivetta absolutely dealing and leading the way. And also Robert Suarez out of the bullpen has really been a nice piece for them, closing down games, leads the National League with 10 saves and only has given up 1 earned run across 12 innings of work. The bullpen has been outstanding, but nice to see the Tigers kind of slow the Padres roll last week in a pretty tough series for San Diego.
Yeah, as you had mentioned, we both got to go to that series. You going obviously on Monday and seeing them win, and me going on Tuesday and seeing a loss is tough, but it really did give me good perspective to see how good that bullpen is. They brought in the 8th inning, they brought in Jason Adam, who is having a phenomenal year. Yep. And then they closed it out with Suarez, like you had mentioned, who is also having a phenomenal year for them. So that was at least cool to see that I got to see a good pitching matchup.
Yeah, without a doubt. So yeah, that has been our top 5 rapid fire on the best MLB teams by winning percentage as of 4/28/25. We're recording this episode live on 4/29/25. Obviously, some games are going on right now, and it really is hard to say from a pure power rankings perspective who the best teams in baseball are. I mean, there's so many honorable mentions, I think, for this list here tonight. I mean, obviously, we're just going based off of winning percentage, but you can't discount what the Yankees have done. The Mariners are leading the AL West right now. The Cubs have been really solid. The Diamondbacks are holding their own in the NL West. I mean, there's a lot of good teams out there. It's early in the season right now, and I think really anything can happen. And I think, Joe, both of us would agree that 4 out of these 5 teams, if you take out the San Francisco Giants, are on pace to continue this success. So it'll be really interesting to see how things shake out over the coming weeks.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. I think the Mets will end up winning that division. I think the Dodgers are going to win theirs. Padres are definitely going to finish, in my opinion, second in that division. Not far behind the Dodgers, and I believe the Tigers, I know it's early in the year, but I believe they have the Central locked up for sure.
I sure hope so. All right, with that, as we look to close out this week's episode, any last-minute thought-provoking statements or shout-outs, Joe?
Yeah, I do have a quick couple here. My first one is going to go to Spencer Torkelson. Like I had mentioned, turning his career around. I believe this is the second shout-out I've given him, but it was great to see him hit a home run in person at the game on Saturday. I'd like to see him continue that success, not only because he's on my fantasy team, but because he's my dad's favorite player, and it's always good to talk with my dad about good old Spencer Torkelson. The next shout out I have to give is Kerry Carpenter. He ends up getting taken out a lot if a lefty is on the mound, and I think this year he is slowly starting to prove that he can hit lefties. AJ Hinch has given him a few opportunities this year, and he does have a few homers off of lefties. Obviously, you like the righty matchups more for him, and that's why he's hitting in the leadoff spot if a righty is on the mound. But definitely want to give a shout out to Kerry as he continues to mash the baseball. And my last shout out is going to be to one of our podcast members, Mr. Carter Rogers. Carter, this weekend, when we met up at Leo's house prior to the baseball game, said he had a surprise for me. And as some of you may know, I am very big into collecting baseball cards. Have been for a good amount of years now, and really started reviving it this year with the new Top set. And we always do FaceTimes with myself, Leo, Carter, and Kyle, and we show each other different baseball cards that we get. And Carter knows that, and we have a list that each person likes, specific players on that list. And Carter was generous enough to purchase a card for me with one of my favorite players on the list, Mr. Gary Sheffield. He got me a Gary Sheffield autograph. It was truly something special to me, as Carter took the time to look at my list to find a card and then purchase it for me and give it to me. It was really special. So, Mr. Rogers, I do really appreciate that. If you take a look right here, we do have a video of me getting this card. So take a look. What do we got here? Can't believe you got a gift for me. Oh, what? You got me a Sheffield auto? Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
Oh, that was sweet. Thank you, Carter.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah.
I just want to give one more special thanks to Mr. Carter Rogers.
Absolutely. Yep. Shout out to Carter. That was a power move right there, without a doubt. A legend in the game, Gary Sheffield, and a really nice looking card. That's a sick autograph to have. So continuing with the shout outs of cards, and this one, right here is pretty special to me, as I am myself looking to complete as much of the Matt Vierling 2025 Topps Rainbow as I can. Joe, you pulled this card out of a Topps pack this year, which was pretty crazy pull, and you gave it to me this past weekend. Hopefully you can see it up there pretty well. It is the Matt Vierling Black Diamante foil card, and if you take a look at the back there, it is numbered to 10. It is 3 of 10. Pretty sick card right here. I do have to trade my way to officially acquire this. I've given you a few cards there, Joe, but definitely owe you a little bit more on that. But did just want to give you a shout out for probably the most definitely the coolest Matt Vierling that I've collected so far this year.
My pleasure.
And then I would like to shout out Mr. Pete Crow Armstrong of the Chicago Cubs. I was able to acquire him via free agency this year. And let's just say that he has been an absolute steal for me. Pete Crow Armstrong is currently ranked 6th in fantasy points right now in our league. He actually has a home run tonight against the Pittsburgh Pirates with a 16.10 stat line so far today, top of the 7th inning there. And Pete Crow Armstrong also holds a special place in my heart, because if you look back into the origin and name of this league, it's no secret that it is, of course, an allusion to the great movie, which is Little Big League, and hopefully you've seen it. But Ashley Crow plays Billy Haywood's mom in the movie, and just happens to be Pete Crow Armstrong's mother in real life. So a pretty cool connection there. I hope to hang on to Pete Crow Armstrong for quite a while. He's been awesome for the Cubs. I'm hoping they move him up in the lineup, but a pretty cool connection for sure.
All righty. Well, that's going to do it for episode 7. Be sure to tune in to next week's episode, and don't forget to drop a comment, give us a like, and hit the subscribe button. And if you haven't already, be sure to check out our YouTube shorts. But in the meantime, thank you to everyone for tuning in, and never stop chasing your little big league dreams.